Enjoy.
All right. Now, hello everyone. Almost the last one, so I hope you have still a bit of energy for this, namely energy conference. All right. Yeah, just two numbers to get your, let's say, curiosity going. First, we are in 2024. By 2025, we expect that the energy consumption should increase by at least 50%. It's a big issue. On the second hand, as you know, obviously, we all have the net zero, let's say, target by 2050. But we often forget to say that by 2030, so in 6 years, we should have done at least 50%, also 40 to 50% of this target in 6 years, basically. So, as you can see, we have a smaller urgency there, and we're going to discuss right now how deep technologies can help. Very quickly, myself, I work for a French fund called Omnes. We are a deep tech specialist, and we have invested in a nuclear reactor, carbon capture, etc. And I will let my panelists present themselves, maybe Namratha first.
Happy to. Thank you also for joining us on such a beautiful day. It's really beautiful outside. I work at Speedinvest, investing in all sorts of climate startups across Europe, writing tickets up to 2.5–3 million euros or so. We invest in all of the polluting sectors, so to speak, from food, ag, construction to energy, transition, manufacturing, industry, etc.
Kevin,
yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Rodrigues. I'm the Regional Managing Director at BP Ventures with oversight for Europe, Israel, and Africa. BP Ventures is the corporate venture capital arm of BP. We've been around since 2007. We focus on supporting our existing operations decarbonize, in addition to investing in transition growth engines. These are sectors that we see will be critical to the energy transition. A team of 24, 7 of them report to me and are based in Europe. And we've also got offices in Houston and San Francisco, but based out of London. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Deep technology, actually. Yeah, so first question, actually, I feel it's not that trivial because we all work in deep tech, investor, entrepreneur, researchers, but actually can deep technologies really help facing this energy transition? And maybe, Kevin, you obviously at BP, you have this full overview of the energy value chain. You do a lot of stuff. Is there some specific parts of the value chain where you really think that deep technologies have very strong potential, and also with what timeline?
Thanks for the question. So BP has a target to be net zero by 2050 or earlier. We've got some significant targets we need to achieve by 2030. How are we going to do that is by focusing and accessing founders and startups in what we're calling our transition growth engines. These are EV and charging, biofuels, renewables, both solar and wind, hydrogen and power. Deep tech has a critical role to play across all of that. And what we are seeing is the significant impact AI, advanced materials, automation has in actually ensuring that we're able to find the right technologies to help BP transition and our clients also by 2050 or earlier.
Maybe Namratha, maybe from an investor perspective, and I can speak also for myself, we see a lot of different emerging technologies out there. We saw very impressive nuclear technologies just before, but also green hydrogen, a lot of things, hydrothermy, geothermy. How do you make your way through that, basically? How do you assess all those different type of technologies? And do you feel that they are complementary? Do you feel one of them will be a huge winner? Yeah, what's your view?
Absolutely. It's an important question, right? I think we like picking sides when we look at different topics, solutions that are solving energy transition. When you look at global energy systems, there are a lot of diverse needs, and each technology comes with its own unique strength, so to speak. And layer that on top with geopolitical strengths, if you will. On one hand, when there is countries and geographies with strong solar, strong wind potential, the focus needs to be on doubling down on these trends to help create a renewable energy or sustainable energy source. On the other side, when there is strong political and public will, and of course high financing capability. Like France, you double down on nuclear.
Yeah.
The core of the solution needs to be, the focus needs to be around how do we integrate different renewable energy sources to reach a place of energy security, energy resilience, grid reliability, so on and so forth. So I think it needs to be about integrating and optimizing different solutions, nuclear, for instance, to create a base load in tandem with, say, batteries or bioenergy or green hydrogen, so on and so forth, to support that sort of variability.
Okay, so you believe on, let's say, energy mixed with different type of technologies.
Absolutely.
Do you also think it's true for every, let's say, timelines, like in the short, mid, long term? Will we see differences? I don't know, any of you have a view on that? Or?
My answer would be like,
yeah.
We need to go for the low-hanging fruit as well, right? Because
okay.
I think every degree increase in temperature and every the ppm that we keep adding, that has its own results and consequences. So yes, we love deep tech. We want to focus on deep tech. At the same time, we also need to tackle financial engineering and to deploy the lowest hanging fruit possible that reaches the same outcomes.
All right. And maybe Kevin, because I know there are also a few entrepreneurs in the room. I'm just going to take their side for a second, but it's often said that it's difficult actually for very small startups to go work with the largest, actually one of the largest energy corporations in the world, like the BP, Total, Shell, etc. How do you make sure you internally at BP that you have, let's say, the right tools to go help and support these companies? Do you feel like it's important also that you build an early relationship, or maybe not, and actually it will be at the later stage? Like, how do you see basically BP's relations with early stage deep tech startups?
No, that's a great question. And before I joined BP, I used to be in the impact sustainable space as a financial VC. And I'd always think that if you, as a startup, an entrepreneur, trying to work with a large corporation was always daunting. And I think traditionally that has been the sentiment. However, because of two things. One, the increased focus that corporations have in venture capital means that the organization is set up in such a way that we can actually work as a large corporation with startups. The second thing that is also very important is the fact that you have seen the pressure there has been on R&D budgets. So large companies like BP and other players see working with startups as a way to actually access technology. Now, folks like I, sitting at a ventures side, play two roles. So one, we make sure that we understand the various technological needs of our businesses. What are they looking for in terms of technologies? What are their gaps? What are their strategies? Second, and layered onto that, is then actually coming to events like this and reaching and engaging with startups, such that once we understand the need, we are able to direct them with the right counterparty. The other bit I'll say very quickly is that really quickly move into commercial agreements and piloting and just actually create that landscape or the enabling environment for that to happen very quickly.
All right. And do you have any, let's say, a precise example that happened in the past, or is it too early to actually see successful collaborations between those two type of players?
Well, we've got many. So one that comes to mind is Ride. It's an app that is put in within vehicles to help create an experience for the customer. That now is located with 2,400 of our facilities, charging facilities in Germany. That's one example. Ever is another geothermal business that we have now moved as Canadian technology brought into Germany. So that's really tied to us. We focus on not only financial value, but strategic value and being able to help businesses scale by leveraging our capabilities and network.
All right. And maybe Namratha on the investor side also, is it something that you find, let's say, absolutely crucial when you're analyzing a startup? Do they already have to, do they have to have previous relationship or current relationship with larger corporate players, or?
I guess the answer is always it depends, right?
Yeah.
When we look at partnerships with an external entity, I look at it from like 3 different perspectives. One is the partnership able to reduce the operational risk of the company in terms of scaling, in terms of manufacturing, etc. The second one is, can the partnership accelerate time to market? I think you mentioned a really good example here. So time to market, maybe accelerating like the innovation cycles. So access to customers, distribution channels, talent that the startup may not have access to. The third one being good validation points about the startup, right? So if think a partnership with a corporate brings credibility in our eyes as investors that there is tech feasibility and that there is demand signals, so on and so forth. So it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. There's funding, there is R&D collaboration, partnership with regards to like supply chain, manufacturing, and distribution at the core.
Is it also about revenues? Because obviously it's sometimes difficult for deep tech startups to generate revenues, but I don't know actually for any of your side, but like, can some of them try to find, I don't know, POC, whatever, small contract, R&D partnerships where at least it's valued also in terms of money?
So it depends. I think we like businesses that have shown traction to getting some revenues. It shows that they've moved from the lab to being able to potentially scale. So we are then the fuel that actually helps them scale. However, if the technology makes a lot of sense strategically, we do look at pre-revenue businesses, and we have been looking at that increasingly so where there's a significant need for us to transition, like with sustainable fuels, where they're great technology but not pre-revenue. But then the goal is then to make sure that the business is ready to operate with a corporate. And once you move from POC, we're happy to talk POCs at any level, any amount of money. Are you then able to scale, and do you have the right people to achieve that?
All right. Maybe a sneaky question for Namratha. I'm on the VC side, so I can ask it. A lot of entrepreneurs often criticize VCs for being focusing on very short terms, either in terms of scaling, in terms of exit, etc. And on the other end, to defend our entrepreneur friends, energy resilience is a very long-term issue. It's suited within an unstable political and geopolitical system, global system actually. How do you feel like the VCs, have the VCs, let's say, adapt to that new situation? Are you taking into consideration a geopolitical risk when you are looking into a startup? And are you ready also to take that geopolitical risk?
Absolutely. When you look at global energy systems, renewable or not, there's always a geopolitical risk. It's just baked into the way we consume energy. So in some sense, it applies to all of the existing infrastructure and systems that we have in place today. On one hand, we want to invest in, or we will invest in companies that have these risks. And no company is perfect, right? We have risks for every single company that we invest in. But do we have a plan strategically to mitigate these risks? So we have a lot of conversations about it internally and also with the founders, and think of how do we mitigate these. That's on one hand. And on the other hand, if the startup is tackling energy resilience, energy security, that reduces the centralization of supply chains, that reduces the dependence we have in certain geographies. So it kind of becomes a virtuous cycle in some sense, where the more we invest in these topics, the less it is going to be a problem in the face of shifting geopolitics and climate change.
Okay, so you have to accept that risk, and all right. Any ways actually, to mitigate it? I don't know, for the entrepreneurs who might be in the room, is there a specific, I don't know, storytelling to say, a specific data point to convince actually your investors that it might be a risk, but it's a manageable risk? Or
so when our portfolio companies go out to fundraise, right? So we invest in pre-seed companies, so really, really early. Oftentimes there's not a lot of proof points, but when they go out to fundraise, like the the first thing I advise before even creating a deck or before having the first conversation is, what are the top 3 to 5 reasons why a VC should be investing in this company? Like, I really want to hear a very strong story, that equity story, if you will. On the flip side, what are the top risks that you as a team has thought about, and what's your plan to mitigate? I think these 2 points should be baked into the deck and the material you're preparing. So we want to, but also other investors want to see that there are risks, yes, but how have you thought about mitigating these? And that could come with partnerships with corporates, perhaps, partnerships with other startups, perhaps, or hiring really smart people that may not, the skills that may not be within the team, for instance, etc.
All right. And maybe last topic for today, because this is the title of this panel, supporting the deep tech innovation. It's what do you feel collectively, Kevin, Namratha, what is the thing, if you had to choose, like the biggest challenge that you feel like the deep tech startups will face in the energy sector in the coming years? And also, of course, because again, this type of events share investors, entrepreneurs, researchers. How can we all, let's say, collectively work together to make this challenge, let's say, the least painful possible?
That's a very broad question. Yeah. There are quite a few challenges. I think you could look at challenges around talent, challenges around scalability. But one challenge we're really focusing on, particularly where, as you mentioned, deep tech, particularly around hardware, is you find yourself in a situation where, as a startup, you need to access significant amounts of venture capital and almost look at it from a project financing, but taking venture risk. So one of the initiatives we're really working, because we're able as BP to provide offtakes, some equity capital, again, working with other VCs, is there any initiatives we can do around first of a kind and offering startups the ability to come into a potential offtake agreement where we then put some capital to support that and bring in other offtakers or EPCs. So that's one challenge we're really trying to see how we can address. And I think that will help, particularly with businesses that require significant around the green molecules. So a startup knows you're coming in and you're able to see how you move from 4 people around a table to multiple project SPVs.
Yeah, also some things that we often forget, but actually it's also a way to get funding. Like revenue is also obviously adding cash to the company. Maybe Namratha, do you see in your daily investment like a significant challenge that either your portfolio company or the like prospect are living right now?
Adding on to what Kevin said, right? Like what every investor that is deploying different financial instruments, all they want to see is demand from customers. That could take the form of LOI, MOU, money in your bank, offtake agreements, so on and so forth. I think like what I would love to see is I guess it's my wish list, let's say, a mature capital stack for the company as they progress from different stages of TRL progress. More market mechanisms to incentivize early adoption of tech. I think no one got fired for hiring Microsoft, sort of a thing. We want to take in established companies, but I think adopting new technology always comes with its own challenges.
All right, and do you have any, again, an advice for this founder who have indeed very capital-intensive model, like how can they try to, I don't know, maybe at least average their needs? So you have talked about the revenue side, but on the pure financial side, is there any tool that they can access? Or
can you like rephrase the question? Sorry.
Do you feel like, for instance, to be more precise, can those type of startups try to leverage some debt or some non-dilutive, or can they be creative, basically, rather than to just ask, I have 100 million cash needs, so I'm going to ask 100 million equity? Is it something that you consider? Like, is it do you care about alternative type of financing?
100%. It's all about, you framed it really nicely earlier. You said collaborative approach, right? Like it's a collective collaborative approach. So we need to be working with debt providers, project financiers, investors, so on and so forth. But again, the core is how is someone underwriting a project in like infrastructure? That comes from having offtake agreements. That comes from showing demand. And it's similar for me as an equity investor and for Kevin, right? If you see that demand, and even with grants and non-dilutive instruments, there are oftentimes a need for partnership with either R&D institutions and or corporates. It comes down to them having interest and an incentive to want to progress this particular technology. And that's what will move the needle to get non-dilutive funding as well.
All right, and maybe we have 1 minute left. So last personal question, Kevin, Namratha, are you, let's say, optimistic actually about this space? Because we've talked about a lot of the challenges. It's a huge mountain in front of us, but do you believe that those type of technologies will, as a society, more not even as an investor, but really crack those issues?
No, absolutely, and that's why I do this. There's a big passion in making sure there's the right transition. What gives me a lot of optimism is how far we've come. How much, there's still ways to go, but how much capital and innovation you're seeing coming out. If you're able to solve a challenge and find capital, I think we'll be able to be successful in the transition.
If I have to be honest with you, I have good and bad days. Some days I'm optimistic that we've come a long way. On other days, we're just getting started, so we have a long way to go. Yeah.
All right, but thank you very much for this insight, and let's hope that you're both right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.